Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. And for those viewing from our live stream, of course, you know the link, bookmark your calendar because we do have other topics as well. So take a look at that. Those actually watching us from YouTube, again, click subscribe, like us, or even drop a comment down. Today, before we start, of course, you've seen the title, you know what we're going to talk about. We're going to cover a lot on e-commerce and retail and what's going on in the industry itself. And on our panel today, a very distinguished panel, I might say. Before we get in there, let me just quickly introduce myself first. I'm Terrence from LATOKEN, and you are on VCTV. Now, VCTV is a platform where you can actually come on and pitch your ideas. So do get in touch with us. We will advise you on how to move forward. So without further ado, again, I would call on to Telly. Quickly introduce yourself and tell us what's going on and what do you do?
Hi, I'm Telly Onu. Thank you, Terrence. First of all, I'm dialing in all the way from St. Kitts and Nevis in the Caribbean. Um, what I do for first of all, my introduction, I'm a digital economist. Actually have a master's in electronic commerce. I did like way back when, 20 years ago, so nearly. Um, I'm also have an executive master's in electronic governance. I'm also a financial innovator, serial entrepreneur, and early stage investor. Still early, still a baby, and an asset manager as well. So I'm a co-founder for Beyond Capital Markets, which is a digital asset firm, and we also are focused around building a digital financial market infrastructure, which covers, which covers new emerging alternative capital markets. I'm also a co-founder for a fintech incubator called Per House Labs, and under that fintech incubator, we have a number of different portfolio companies. One of which is Alt School, which is the first tech school in digital finance. Um, we partnered with Middlesex University, and we're offering the first postgraduate certificate programs in digital financial market infrastructure management and also climate finance management. So that's wordy, but yeah, that's a little about me. And
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Telly. Very relevant to the show today as well, I must say. Mike, yourself, over to you. A quick introduction.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Terrence. Thanks for having me. Yeah. My name's Mike Michelini. I also have quite a few different serial entrepreneur, host at a blog and podcast community, a cross-border business called Global from Asia, and a small investor, angel investor at Venture Seed, as well as content creator and marketer for many years, and based here in China, not in space, but it's night here in China. I'm in the northeast, called Dongbei in Chinese, in Shenyang near Beijing, where I have been on and off since 2007. Chinese wife, a couple of kids, and I love e-commerce, cross-border trade, and just trying to bridge east and west business and culture.
Nice. Thank you for that, Mike. And yes, definitely, we'll be talking about lots on e-commerce and how China is doing as well. So that's something that I hope you viewers out there can really take some notes and look out for those pointers now. And again, before we start, you can get in touch with us. You can interact with us and on the show as well. Ask your questions beforehand, and we will try to feature them here when we are able to. All right. So without further ado, I guess it's a good time to kind of go in and deep dive into e-commerce and retail and look at investment pivots and what's going on in the market itself. But before that, I think when we touch on those topics and we look at the investments there, we can't stop talking about what has happened in the last 6 months or so. I mean, COVID-19 has introduced that unexpected shift in not only consumer behaviors, but lots of businesses in the region and growing within. the next few months as well. So I want your views. Ladies and gentlemen, tell us, perhaps Telly, you can start us off by talking about the customer shopping experience and what's going to happen in the next 3 months or so. We got lots of big dates coming, from Black Fridays. We just got past the Singles Day, and we're
Yeah.
looking at Christmas shopping events and these mega
Yeah.
blockbuster events. What's in store and what's going to happen? Tell us, Telly.
Well, one or two things. Obviously, this year has been an extremely challenging year, but I foresee, governments going to give out, more money for those countries that are experiencing hardship. Um, E-commerce has been in an uptick for the last, I would say, 6 months, and it's going to be incredibly crazy. But one of the things we're noticing is e-commerce is becoming a lot more social. And I think when you look at the consumer experiences around it shopping, we're finding that a lot of the providers and companies are actually adding more social elements into it. Obviously, after a hard lockdown, people just want more improved experiences. So you're actually seeing an emergence of new types of e-commerce. What we're also seeing is, should I say, a more embedded nature of e-commerce that blends in, your traditional e-commerce with also investment finance products as well. So this I can see being one of the things that would grow it. Also, from the perspective of, um, you know, point of sale lending sort of solutions. There are going to be a lot more. Buy now, pay later, um, based on and we're finding from the consumer experience too. You find that there's going to be a more well there's going to be an explosion of um, more services, more solutions that allow you to leverage the digital assets, for purchases and stuff. So it's evolving. We're seeing just new types of business models just mushrooming, but then you're also seeing like mashup systems that kind of incorporate a lot more services. So like more one-stop shops, but one-stop shops within the context of, apps or solutions or platforms. So a lot of ecosystem solutions.
Hmm, hmm. Okay, I hear what you're saying there, Telly. Mike, I think I want to ask you this one, Mike. Let's talk
Sure.
more about the consumers and I would say the new behavior of what's going on at the moment. And what do you see? What can you tell us about these trends and how the consumers are behaving over at your side?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we're in a horrible pandemic situation around the world, and these horrible events push us towards the next stage. A lot of people here talked about the SARS in 2003 and the birth of Taobao, or not maybe birth, but the kind of like when it kind of went mainstream. It kind of
Hmm.
really got used more, or Chinese e-commerce that forced people to go online or buy online, and so a lot of people feel like this is the next stage into accelerating the growth of e-commerce and online business is forcing, the best time is when you have no choice, right? So it's forcing everybody to go online. But of course, in B2B trading, it's really changed because there's no trade shows. A lot of times I look forward to these spring and fall trade shows in China and other, in Hong Kong. So that all the B2B is moving online now. Everybody's getting forced. I see people in chat groups looking for looking for service providers, looking for people to help find, work with factories, visit these supply chain, distributors. That's definitely something I was seeing. Of course, China's honestly, as I think a lot of you know or might not be aware of, China is ahead of the game with short video e-commerce, and we feel like next 6 months TikTok will start to do e-commerce now globally, but that's been going on in Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, for I think a couple. I don't know how long, at least over a year or so. So that's going to start happening in the West. So WeChat QR code. I don't know if that's happening in the West still, but I mean here and there's barely. It's almost cashless already. In the Chinese
Mm,
market for consumer
mm,
e-commerce, at least offline. Even online, everything is visiting all the time, scanning everything on your phone, scanning the deliveries. So, um, it's just really the big data, and it's yeah, everything is in your phone. Like everything is online now. It's unbelievable. Like
right,
there's no
right.
no paper. Yeah,
Yeah,
no cash.
yeah,
Like I'm a foreigner still, so I'm a West non. Sometimes I still like to have some cash on me, but they look at you weird when you need to give them change, like a KFC. I try to
yeah,
buy a burger with cash, and they need to go into the other room to get change. They don't have
right,
change like at the counter. Yeah,
right.
it's crazy.
Something really foreign for a foreigner, bringing cash like
Yeah, I know.
that.
I know.
Yeah, yeah, they can spot you from a mile away, Mike. But yeah, I mean, just echoing on that itself. Of course, I've been reading quite a bit, and lots of reports suggest that the last 10 years and what's happening within the last 6 months now, that acceleration and shift towards online and change of habit towards e-commerce and basically that habit, is that affecting brand loyalty? Is that affecting how they shop? Can you give us like your scenario and your take on that then, Mike?
Sure. I mean, I think, well, I have to say my wife does most of the buying, the shopping. But I think there's less access to buying products from overseas, or even there was a scare of the salmon from Northern Europe. I don't want to say the wrong country, but they said
Mm,
it had the coronavirus on it, and it spread it into China from the salmon fish. So
okay.
there's a weird trend of kind of buying products here,
Mm,
made here.
mm,
Just in my own feeling, I don't have data, but it's just the feeling is there's no the Chinese are not there's no travel, there's no Chinese tourists going overseas. The government's promoting people to stay home, to stay in China, to just travel within
mm,
China.
mm,
Nothing else is safe. Like they tell my kids in school, it's dangerous to leave the country. It's you know they're really trying to insulate and buy everything here, and keep all the transactions inside the border.
right.
It feels.
Right, right. Telly, what's your gut feeling on that? I mean, what do you think?
Um,
Are customers looking at change? Are they getting used to changing quite often these days?
I think, okay, well, if I look at the perspective from our side where e-commerce, we tend to be consumers of e-commerce as opposed to really pushing out products. And we do a lot of cross-border trade, as in, small islands. Literally, a lot of things come out of the US and the UK.
Mm,
So for us, the dependence of e-commerce is incredibly high, and of course, it's driven a lot more people to try and consume. For the most part, our challenge to like I'm interested in what he said is because when it comes to buying local, now we're starting to see, I mean, obviously because of the pandemic, you're starting to see a push for local shopping. So even now for years, you never really had interest from the retailers to kind of go online, but now you now have the ability to do your online grocery shopping. So
Yeah.
the behavior change, I would say, is, you know, we know there's a virus out there. A lot of people want to be social distance, and so they're actually buying a lot of their local produce, and even the farmers,
mm,
even farming produce and groceries are actually, you can now get them online. So
mm,
yes, you're seeing an uptick in behavior in terms of being able to purchase. Obviously, we have certain constraints with regards to um, that infrastructure that supports commerce, payment gateways locally and stuff like that. But for the most part, the behavior that we're seeing, especially with um, commodity type services, obviously that's going online. Now, with regards to procurement globally, obviously it's a challenge, and you can't talk about e-commerce without looking at the logistics and the logistics supply chain.
Right.
So that obviously has been constrained, and you know where we get a lot of some of these PPE and stuff like that out of China, you're obviously starting to see a shift and a move to try and look for other places that could supply at a much quicker rate and more affordable. Um, so that from a cross-border perspective is happening. Yes, there's an uptick in local consumption, but cross-border there's still a need for cross-border supply, especially for islands that are kind of or countries that highly depend on imports.
Right.
Um, and when you look at consumer behavior, especially the younger ones, digital media entertainment, it's like that's like totally everyone's like totally consuming that. Um, from the Netflixes and Hulu, everyone's streaming that. So that has become commonplace that is just like air. That's like mandatory. You need entertainment, and
Mm.
also gaming and stuff is an uptick, and so on. Um, what what was mentioned before in terms of trends, like for example, you talked about TikTok maybe moving into e-commerce. I see that happening. I mean, it should have happened more, but what I'm also seeing is the integration of cryptocurrencies, digital assets, more varied consumption patterns happening, and I'm seeing an emergence of combining these trends along with what's happening in the DeFi space with decentralized finance, and people kind of doing their social thing,
Mm.
like TikTok, but being able to be compensated. So yeah, it's
Yep.
it's open space, and I think it's what is driving even the adoption for a lot of these for like cryptocurrencies as well.
Right. Right.
It's blending it with the social aspects of commerce.
Mm. Hold that thought, Telly, on the cryptocurrency bit. We'll rotate back around to that. Before we do that, Mike, I think most of us have been forced into this new habit of perhaps going online. The generations before us, right up to the teams that you see now. Now, is that trend going to continue, you think? And if that continues, what's going to happen to retail?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, retail is going through a huge change. I, I, I mean, I've been living in e-commerce so many years. I can't believe people still buy in stores. I still
Mm.
see like the Amazon now. Is it Amazon now or
Amazon
there's
Go,
some
Amazon
like
Prime.
Amazon Go? I think you're right. The Go,
Yeah.
the store, the store. You walk into a
Amazon
store and you
Go,
just buy
yeah.
it and you just walk out. It's like cashless.
Mm.
I've seen some tests even in China too. They tried. I for some reason they didn't. I didn't. They went away, but
Mm.
I've also been hearing in the West, a lot of my friends going into 3PL, they're all becoming warehouses. Malls are going to be, reshaping into more like distribution centers or, showrooms. You just look at the product and then you just get it delivered at home. I think
Mm.
people still like the look and touch and feel. So
Mm.
I think it's almost going the other way, like Amazon, Alibaba, they're opening up these retail stores with and using their warehouse as a back end, and what I've watched with Walmart, Walmart has kind of the advantage in that because Amazon doesn't have these stores, but
Mm.
Walmart does, and they can then bridge the online and the offline. So I still think consumers like to kind of have that. It's like I read it in a good article. It's like an experience. You go with your wife, your kids, your friends shopping. It's like you,
Mm.
you go out, go somewhere. It's something to do. But I think the
Right.
whole idea of having all this inventory sitting in the shelf,
Mm.
and I think it's more like you just buy it, maybe scan it with your phone, and you just
Mm.
leave, and it's just delivered to your house. I still see there's like experience, like Telly's talking about the entertainment and Netflix. I still think like shopping is like entertainment, especially for women. I don't know. I'm not. I think the men aren't as big into the shopping. We get dragged in
I,
with our
I don't want to
our
get into trouble
girlfriends and
now,
why.
Mike.
Yeah, I don't want to go. I hope she doesn't hear me, but yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Especially the women, I think
Well,
like it, and then the men
Yeah.
follow because if they're single, they want to meet women. If they're married, or they have to go with them and watch. So I think it's the experience, right? Whether it's the experience and then the food, and there's more movie theaters and more food going into malls and retail, and it's like a social thing. But
Mm.
I think there'll be less of this like warehouse in there. It's not going to be like a big thing of product. It'll be more like a showroom and an experience. Just like an Apple store, right? They have more focus on seeing the product and playing with it. That's what I see. But it'll be integrated with mobile commerce, e-commerce, and offline together.
Telly, what's motivating people to shop online and in retail?
well, as a woman, what motivates as a woman, yeah, it is therapy. It's actually very therapeutic when you go to shop. Now, obviously, you have your shopping for your basic and common things that you have to do, but generally speaking, he's right. Shopping is an experience and it's therapeutic. For some people, when they're under stress, the best thing to do is to go shopping, look for things you like, and so on and so forth. So, and interestingly, when you look at the data in terms of e-commerce, it's probably 70% women that do a lot of shopping, and they're driving the whole shopping experience. Um, so yeah, it's basically therapy, and where you have periods of stress, it's going to go up. So case in point, around the first lockdown in the UK, for instance, when they had the first lockdown, I could tell you because I was watching some trends in the area of rum and basically spirits, but more specifically, I was looking at the rum market because rum is taking off on a new direction, and I realized that a number of the rum companies literally quadrupled their sales during that period because people just wanted to drink and be merry and happy at home. So from a male perspective, yes, what motivates men to shop is because they probably need to get very specific things, right? You guys are
Right.
really practical. But yeah, I mean, something like that, you're home, nothing else to do, you might as well drink. So when you look at alcohol on a whole, you know, e-commerce drove sales for these companies like no man's business. So
Mm.
ready to drink market is like way up there because it's easy to do deliveries. And then obviously the delivery, when you look along the value chain and you look at the delivery startups in that space, I think what we saw that's quite interesting, those that improve their efficiency, because I mean at the end of the day, it's nice to go somewhere and look at something, but it's all about instant gratification. I want to leave with something, or at least knowing that I'm going to actually get the delivery within an hour or 2 hours. So the anticipation. So along the value chain, those companies that focus on deliveries are actually using game changing new technologies, adding AI to kind of map patterns of behavior and just
Mm.
trying to get those deliveries to people on time. So yeah, so while it's an experience, and I agree, I don't think we'll ever get rid of the physical space,
Mm.
but that space is going to be more like a spa, experience. It has to be highly experiential. And you're starting to see those trends happening, especially with telecom companies. When you go into this space and they have, the way it's designed, it's all about design and the experience you get around the built environment actually plays a lot more in that shopping experience. So those are the trends we're seeing with retail. Another trend we're seeing is, pop-up shops. So I was looking at this startup, Popcom, which I think is quite amazing. I mean, she has designed a a a, a retail physical pop shop that's got everything integrated. The
Mm,
fact that we're all socially distancing, those trends with those mobile shops is going to be high. You can place them anywhere. You can place them in any high traffic area, potentially high traffic area, and people can just go and pick what they want. So especially for products, I think it's really a great option. And especially people when you're looking at, well, obviously I'm in the Caribbean, but when you're looking at emerging markets that that have to deal with financial inclusion, how do you include a smaller retailer to get their products out? Something like her product, like a mobile pop shop that's integrated, that's secure, and it actually does capture a lot of data points because they use AI. And then the other issue is adding in identity. They're
mm,
able to add in the identity features in order to prove and mitigate fraud. So I think it's quite exciting, I must say.
mm,
um, Lastly, I would say, what I'm seeing, especially in the area of finance, is for women. Women have challenges when it comes to um, embracing tech, embracing finance. Those are the two things that scare them the most. But when you bundle it into a shopping experience, it's a whole other ball game. It's, you got to have
right,
that storefront, and it has to be like I'm shopping for stocks, type of thing to get them into that space. So it's really about demystifying and dematerializing the whole structure, because I hate to say it, design plays a great part in constructing these experiences. And
right,
not to bash on the men, but a lot of these things were designed by men without really taking consideration all of the different type of people you have in society. When you start when you start looking at the granular data and looking at what people like, what their motivations are, and they can start designing around it, you're going to see a lot more uptake in things. So,
right.
finance is not sexy. So you got to make it sexy,
Yes.
and the shopping experience does help that in terms of making it sexy.
Right, right. Thanks for that, Tali. Mike, going back to your point earlier when you spoke about that shopping experience in like stores in China, mine over here has been a little different. The stores are now allowing lesser people. I'm sanitizing my hands more than anything else. Um,
Got it.
how are these stores gonna emerge stronger? And how is the online space going to move?
Yeah, I think there. My daughter's here. She got to answer.
Hello.
Maggie, can you please leave? Sorry. She just pulled the lighting out. Maybe go back. Give me a second.
No worries. Take your time there, Mike.
Maggie.
Tele, we can kind of continue off here with you. Uh, as I was mentioning earlier, how are the stores going to end up getting stronger? You think, especially the retail side of things, with all
Um,
the limitations that we have.
well, I think when you look holistically at stores, a lot of stores never really took, digital transformation very
Mm,
seriously.
mm,
And I think now they're forced to, like other sectors, become more lean, implement a lot of these technologies to provide seamless solutions. I agree with you. The shopping experience is in some parts of the world, especially now, it's broken. The fact that
mm,
you have to wear a mask and you have to sanitize, and you're always like
mm,
concerned about how many people in there. I mean, and since they're limiting the number of people in that space, obviously, the lines are really long, and especially if you are on a serious 24-hour lockdown or 18-hour lockdown, however, it's like nearly impossible.
Mm,
So yeah, for retailers, they need to partner. For those that don't know how to well, it's not their core business, so they need to partner with software companies, with fintechs, in order to help them with their digital transformation, certainly. um, One of the things too is, if you have, and using the context now, you have to, wherever you go, you have to show like your COVID test. So like, if we
mm,
look at even leveraging, how do we blend in and bring in identity solutions that can help mitigate this thing? Let's just assume,
mm,
I'm looking at in the UAE, they have a system whereby, you do your test, you get a record, and you can actually show that, okay, I'm COVID clear.
mm,
Or, I mean, it is intrusive if you have to now do contact tracing and have like traceability with your band. But if
mm,
that data shows, well, I'm green, I'm okay, I haven't been anywhere that's been exposed, then I think that would facilitate entry. So it's
mm,
it's just, how do you, it's about how they can leverage new innovations to really redesign and rebuild and redefine that whole shopping experience. Because ultimately, a lot of retailers are hurting, and in some cases closing down,
right,
because they don't have the volume.
right.
A lot of them were not necessarily online, and for those that are not online, and understand how to get their goods online, they're going to be, broken. So it's really about getting lean, not getting rid of the whole store, but obviously having smaller spaces that can accommodate.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I was looking at a lot of innovation you find in retail comes out obviously in Asia. I say Asia is the baby when it comes to e-commerce. And in Japan, they were piloting a type of retail that had to do with just images and pictures. So you literally like walk through the aisles, and all you're seeing are pictures with the QR codes, and all you do is scan and pick. So I think we're going to see some of that trend like around the city, where you can literally shop and procure on your way. So if you're in transit and you have a nice signage, you'll be able to shop on the go. So I think that is going to be one of the things that could mitigate. So,
Yeah, great
retail,
example there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, you're
So
right. You're right, Ali. Great example there. And kind of
yeah,
rounding that point over to you, Mike. You were about to say something there.
yeah. So I just wanted to add, like, in China, like in March, April, they were like, she was talking about identity. It was definitely Big Brother. Like, you had
Mm,
to scan, everything's on WeChat, and you go into a mall and you have to scan in, and it's really hard on us foreigners because we don't have like Chinese IDs, and we're on
mm,
passports, and we had to, our English, our Chinese skills might not be so good, but they're tracking
mm,
everything. So
mm,
they're so serious to just track everybody that went to any kind of like traveling, flights,
mm,
malls, like any kind of large area. And the idea was, if somebody got this disease, they would just round up anybody that was there. I don't know how they did it. Like, even in a taxi, I went
mm,
into a taxi, and the taxi driver had a QR code, and he's telling us, my wife and I, to both scan. And I usually just kind of like, back to the shopping. She shops, she buys the stuff. I don't. So I was just hoping she would just scan, but he wanted both of us to scan this QR to track our identity and our location, and that we were in his taxi. And I
mm,
don't want to scan. I'm this American. I don't want to like give my information to everybody.
mm,
He freaked out. We were going onto a highway. On the ramp, he's pulling over, saying, if you don't scan this, I'm kicking you out of my taxi on this highway ramp.
mm,
And he was just, there was no choice. I had to like get the thing set up, and I had to like scan it. They're like super serious.
mm.
Big data here is crazy. They everything, like everything is tracked. So
Right, right.
there's that whole discussion. But
Yeah.
the stores, it's actually like loosening up now. But
Yeah.
back then it was really crazy, like
Yeah.
insane,
But
strict.
just looking at businesses now, let's just focus on the businesses and new businesses, startups, be it for that matter. What do you see now around this space? I mean, can you cite some examples? Can you give us some trends? Are businesses taking their running? What's happening now?
Sure. So right now,
Hmm.
yeah, people are still buying online. I mean, it's mostly open. There's domestic travel is generally okay, but you just need to have this app that shows your health. So
Hmm.
any kind of major transportation you take now, you have to have a show that you're green, that you're like not sick, and
Hmm.
they track it. And but they're not as crazy as it used to be with every small place you would go.
Hmm.
But as far as the e-commerce, I'd say it's really kind of everything's coming back. Events are coming back, online, offline events. People are buying online. We talk about the Singles Day. It was another record Singles Day here. We had a whole bunch of deliveries that just came in,
Hmm.
stocking up on teas and pasta and
Okay.
rice. Quite all these deliveries are just coming every day of online
Right.
deliveries. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, it's I would say it's really accelerated even more. I think the big change from in China is, the older generation is even doing it. Even the produce, the fresh foods, everything now. Like before, it was
Hmm.
people still go to markets. There's still markets, but I think even now people are buying everything online now, and
Hmm. Hmm.
every age group, young and old.
Right, right. Thanks for that, Mike. Telly, why don't you give us a brief on perhaps the blockchain-based businesses or even the DeFi space? What are you seeing now? Anything new, anything vibrant?
Um, well, for now, DeFi is just more focused on lending. What I would say, you were seeing that's different is the embedding. It's really
Mm,
embedded finance, taking, you know, e-commerce and payments to another level where we're seeing more embedded finance, especially from the lending side on the e-commerce side. So you're shopping, it's like, you can buy now, you pay later, and it's really based on your transaction history. Where we're seeing an uptick in is in the data side, because
mm,
obviously the kind of data points that are being collected, um, adding AI. So not say it's a combination. It's not just blockchain alone. The AI allows you to actually pick up a lot of the customer consumer behavior with AI. So then you have a lot more recommendations. So even when you're shopping online, I mean these days, if I want to see something, I just have to say it 5 times, and then go go surfing, and boom, I get recommendations of what I was talking about. So um, that intelligence, companies leveraging AI to kind of pick up, and then machine learning is big in that area. And then also on the, um, if you're adding blockchain, using blockchain as a ledger to just record the transactions is pretty neat,
mm,
because then it allows you to identify and kind of map that transaction to the particular place. So you're seeing an area in the space of anti-fraud, where blockchain is being used, and it's really easy to then track, where this came from. Um, yeah, so much stuff. And then
right.
obviously an application of DeFi would be the digital assets and digital currencies. There, lots of innovation in that. It's still new in that, in terms of the application of being able to buy with cryptocurrencies. Obviously, adoption has always been an issue with
Mm,
these new coins, but the ability for now, online stores or you to accept payments in a particular cryptocurrency is big. You have quite a number of WooCommerce plugins coming out that allow you to accept, different types of cryptocurrencies. You have interesting, platforms that have an on and off ramp that allow you to convert, back to fiat.
Mm,
Take LATOKEN, for instance, your app does that. So a lot of stuff. So yes, we're seeing more convergence
mm,
in the area of finance as well.
right.
Insurance as well. People buy microinsurance, just to solve some of their bigger purchase items,
Mm.
and that's all happening online.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that, Tali. You're right. I'm seeing a few of that sprout out as well. Mike, from
Yeah.
your end over there, what are the technologies that you're seeing? Talk about perhaps, if you can, the top two that you like or you're seeing some companies adopt or it's coming out from your side of the world there.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe not just specifically in Asia, but I'm excited about the Bitcoin domains like Handshake. I've been following that closely and
Mm,
connecting with DeFi and connecting with Bitcoin transactions and owning your own TLD. I've been really diving deep into this because I really uh I really like the idea of decentralizing DNS and
mm,
then identity, like Telly was talking about. I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about this. I
mm,
really think it will go to the next level of the internet. A whole new internet, honestly. And I think we need that because there's then it opens up transactions like like blockchain and it's really, it seems like fascinating to me. It's really what I've been diving into a lot
right.
right now, and and then just bridging these borders. I guess maybe it's similar, but the second point is just I'm just tired of all these borders. We
Mm,
talk about cross border, but these, it seems like the traditional you know gatekeepers will trying to hold put us in our place, put us in our country where we are, and it's getting harder now to. I think they're going to make travel harder, for
right.
foreign non-locals to go from one country to another, calling it the virus.
Mm,
I really just hope that there's a better way for people to just be people. It's not about where you're from or your background.
yeah.
I don't know if it connects to e-commerce, but just the idea of you know people's talent and ability being able to be what measure somebody, not based on their back, where they were
Right.
born or their mother or father or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I hope that can connect to allowing
Yeah.
people to just earn money anywhere and be able to sell products anywhere.
Mm. I think you're right to highlight that is a problem, and we are all somewhat tired of it moving on with the weeks and months. But as we have about 10 minutes left, let's talk about a little bit on the investment sides from the VCs, from the angels out there, even yourselves. Uh, where's the money going to, and what's the focus at the moment, or what are you looking at? Can you give us some advice? Yeah.
Pretty much on my end, money is definitely going into the infrastructure that drives, commerce infrastructure, especially decentralized financial infrastructure and digital financial infrastructure. A lot more is focused on that because that drives everything else. Um, Also, another space we're seeing, an adoption for the embedding of um, I would say more media products with
Mm,
a lot of the financial products as well. So anything right now that focuses on deeper embedded finance, because the big challenge we have is with fintech great, it's disrupted finance. We have so many different applications that really don't talk to one another. There's no interoperability. There's not connected. It's very verticalized. So where you have solutions that literally bake in and incorporate a lot of the solutions, I think that will extract greater value for investors. So that's where the focus is on. And then, of course, parallel to that is how do you get people to adopt this? So you have transformation opportunities and education as well. So there's a space in education if you're looking at, the linkages to the value chain as well, to get people to adopt. Um, with this new space, you're seeing literally a new barter economy, emerging. So that whole, I think investors are looking at more of the trends and seeing, how these economies can be supported. So I think what we're also seeing a keen interest in the areas of tokenization, because you have the ability to now tokenize any product and then trade it on the exchange. So a lot of companies that first of all have value to tokenize are doing that. So if you're looking at places like Africa with very, very rich resources, mineral resources, agriculture, the ability to tokenize that and trade is unlock a lot of value as well. So yeah, it's really, we are in an era of a barter system, and people can now start trading tokens for different things. I mean, I saw an example of a person that tokenized themselves and traded themselves, as an expert. It's happening. He
Wow.
raised he raised 30,000 just by tokenizing himself. So the tokenization is definitely big. And obviously, with systems like decentralized ledgers, you have the single source of truth. So you can't, it's a single source of truth. You can't hide what you're not, tokenizing. Another big area I think would be an emergence of green products or blue products, anything to do with sustainability. There is a growing interest in that, and obviously, those companies that are providing retail or offering e-commerce around the products there's definitely an uptick in that area.
Mm,
Mhm.
okay. Thanks for
Okay.
that. Mike, summarize it for us on your end.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. I mean,
where's the money
I see
going?
everybody's rushing and trying to jump into e-commerce that wasn't. I think
Right.
all my friends that have been sellers, for a long time, we just feel like, we told you so, but now everybody's just rushing into e-commerce, trying to find a supplier, trying to get their store set up, their marketplace opened. I've talked to factories trying to get onto e-commerce now directly. you know
Mm,
i just I just see so many opportunities, people looking to get into e-commerce now, just seeing like there are so many people like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, felt like it was too late, 2005, 2010, 2015, 2020. They're like, it's too late, it's too late, it's too late. They keep thinking it's too late. Now they're jumping in. I just, I talk to people all the time. And I think the second thing I've been seeing is roll ups in media. I think people want to
mm,
roll up now. They see a downturn in the economy. They're trying to kind of consolidate. I'm talking to a lot of people that want to kind of like raise funds to buy out their competitors, to buy out people in the industries,
mm,
um, to try to take advantage of these downtimes to come up bigger than ever. Those are two things I've been seeing a lot.
mm. I see. I think that's something when we look at M&As and what's happening today, lots of trends are pointing towards that angle as well. Before we leave, though, we have probably a few minutes left. Any thoughts and going away messages for some of the businesses that are looking at you at the moment? Mike, you go first.
Sure. You mean just
Yep.
for more
General
about like what I
advice.
do, or just
Yeah.
general advice?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think try to think about the future, but balancing the long term and the short term. I think that's the hard part for a lot of us. There's a lot of these amazing things coming out. Like maybe I'm gonna Google tokenizing myself after this session. But we gotta, like, especially if we're having hardships in our business, or we have to stay healthy. We have to worry about cash flow now, stay alive, keep going. So you got to balance the short term, especially nowadays. And but it's also a good chance for you to change. If you're going through hard times personally or in your business, it's a great time to kind of try something new.
Mm,
Start fresh. I try to turn negative into positive. Come out of this pandemic and this horrible, global crisis, come out better than ever. Don't, so many people get stuck in the negativity. So I
mm,
think try to find the opportunities if in what you're doing now, or make the best of it. but and balancing the long term. And if you know, that's, I think, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but balancing short term and long term, and try to you do the best you can with where you're at now.
Yep, yep. Agree on that. Telly, your final advice for some businesses out there that are looking at you.
Well, coming from what Mike had said, balancing
Mm,
short and long term, it really requires you to take a step back. I would say one word, it's business model innovation.
mm,
Things have
Cool.
changed, everything is digital. If you weren't digital, you're going to have to go digital. That also means rationalizing everything you have, your processes, your procedures, looking at your model holistically. Like we said before, a lot of the retailers don't necessarily have to keep stock.
mm.
Leveraging warehouse space. It also means significant digitization. And that might mean job losses. So you're going to have to do the right thing. But also, you need to also look at, even when you have the job losses, you are going to be looking for more trained, qualified persons that can really support you in the area of analytics, data, you know, digital marketing, digital sales, and those type of things, and just being strategic in how you move forward. One way of doing that is looking at the fact that your store, your grocery, from an ecosystem lens, and developing an ecosystem model, because that way you can unlock multiple streams, because you are actually a network by yourself. So you have to just find a way of extracting more value. It will also mean looking at other solutions, things like finance. How do you embed finance in your business model? Maybe adding a little insurance product could significantly, thing. It's kind of funny. I've started seeing people offering COVID insurance. You want to come into the business, it's COVID insurance, protection insurance.
Oh,
I mean, they're just unique thing. You just have to think out of the box. Look for people who can work with you. If train your employees, it's about reskilling, upskilling in the area. Understand this whole new digital financial ecosystem, because we have moved away. It's not about just a communication layer. Most retailers got communications. They're all decked out with Wi-Fi and everything. That's the internet protocol. We have hit the fourth revolution. Fourth revolution, it's purely finance being dematerialized. There's also a dematerialization of human capital, believe it or not, because a lot of people are working remotely. When you are, if you have to re-rationalize your staff, it could be that some of the staff you let go could actually form part of the logistics company or service that you could use to deliver. So it's just about re-rationalizing, taking an ecosystem approach, looking at value networks within your networks, and also extracting more value by leveraging additional solutions.
Thank you. There you have it, folks. Some
great.
words of wisdoms from our panel and investors over here. So I hope you got your notes down. And again, you can reach us via the links below. If you're on YouTube, again, click and subscribe. If you're on our main LATOKEN page, now there's a few links to kind of look at the schedules on our next show. We'll be having one sooner and later as well. So do check us out. Again, thank you for your time, Telly and Mike. It's been great, very insightful, and I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Great.
It's a
Thanks for having me.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.